welcome to CYC News for the 31st of January 2021 and the 23rd of Tulba 1737 am. I'm Anastasia Hanna. In today's headlines, thousands defy COVID-19 rules in Australia for Invasion Day protests. Curfew says despite scum riots in Dutch cities. Iran arrests United States dual national on spying charges. Over 20,000 abandoned tents after floods inundate Syria camps. Heatwave sweeps Australian cities, raising bushfire danger. Sanofi to boost Pfizer vaccine supply amid EU shortages. Arsenal signs Real Madrid midfielder on loan. Staying in Australia first, and several people have been arrested for breaking COVID-19 rules by protesting against the culturally sensitive Australia Day holiday. At least 5 arrests were made in Sydney at a rally attended by around 2,000 people, despite rules limiting the numbers allowed to gather at 500. The day is controversial as it marks the start of Australia's colonialisation. During the Sydney protest, demonstrators shouted sovereignty was never ceded and no justice, no peace, and held place cards and banners reading not a date to celebrate and Black Lives Matter. Authorities had refused to waive the cap on numbers for the protests this year, despite no new infections being recorded in the city for more than a week. Australia Day is celebrated on January 26, the anniversary of Britain's first fleet arriving in Sydney in 1788. Branded by its critics as Invasion Day, it attracts annual protest rallies, drawing attention to the injustices faced by Indigenous people. For years, a Change the Date campaign led by Indigenous Australians has lobbied to move the national day. The official events marking the day contain a lot of acknowledgements of the country's Indigenous past and traditions. This year, the day began with a ceremony in Sydney that included traditional Indigenous dances and a smoking ceremony. COVID-19 concerns, though, led to some official events being cancelled. Thousands more attended rallies in other cities across the country, with organisers asking protesters to maintain physical distance where possible and wear masks. Over to Europe now, where the Dutch government says it will not lift a curfew after violent protests continued against increased COVID-19 measures across the Netherlands. Shops in Rotterdam, Den Bosch and other cities were looted, and Finance Minister Wopke Hoekstra said it's scum doing this. More than 180 arrests have been made. The Dutch chief of police said the riots no longer had anything to do with the basic right to demonstrate. Rotterdam Mayor Ahmed Aboutaleb sent a passionate message to shameless thieves who had caused the damage. He said, "Does it make you feel good that you've helped ruin your city? To wake up with a bag full of stolen stuff beside you?" A nighttime curfew from 9 p.m. to 4:30 a.m. local time was imposed last Saturday to halt the spread of the virus. Anyone caught violating it faces a €95 fine. According to Johns Hopkins University in the US, which is tracking the pandemic, the Netherlands has had close to 1 million confirmed COVID-19 cases and over 13,500 deaths since the start of the outbreak. To the Middle East now, where officials in Iran says a US-Iranian dual national is facing spying charges after being arrested while attempting to leave the country. Judiciary spokesman Gholam Hossein Ismaili did not identify the man, but said he had been free on bail. Iranian media reported last week that a US-Iranian businessman named Ahmed Shaghi had been arrested as he tried to cross a western border illegally. Mr. Ismaili said Iranian law did not recognize dual nationality, but that the defendant had been free on bail and was arrested as he tried to leave the country. He also said the individual faced charges from earlier in the area of spying and gathering information for foreign countries. Mr. Shadi's family said he was being held incommunicado. In a statement, they said, "We just pray for his health and safety. It's been more than 6 weeks since he was taken and we have no idea where he is or who has him." A family friend of Mr. Shaghi told the US network NBC that he had been summoned to a court in Tehran on November 30 and told that he had been convicted of espionage without a trial. The friend also said that a year earlier another court had declared him of the charge, but authorities had not returned his Iranian and US passports. Heavy rain and snow in northwestern Syria have forced over 20,000 displaced people to abandon their tents aid agency CARE said strong winds and flooding had also turned camps into lakes at 87 sites in North Idlib and Western Aleppo provinces, which are held by opposition forces. Some people were having to shelter in public buildings or out in the open as temperatures fell below zero. Children and women make up 80% of the region's 1.5 million camp residents, and one child has reportedly died as a result of the harsh weather conditions. Over 12 million Syrians have fled their homes since the start of the uprising against President Bashar al-Assad almost 10 years ago. Some 6.6 million are internally displaced, while 5.6 million have sought refuge abroad. CARE's country director in Turkey, Shireen Ibrahim, said humanitarian organisations were rushing to provide emergency relief to the thousands who had lost their homes, but that reaching them had been made difficult by the flooding of access roads. She said with inadequate shelter and increasing hunger for displaced Syrians in the northwest of the country, they are running out of coping strategies to keep themselves and their loved ones safe. There is also concern that the situation might contribute to the rise in COVID-19 infections. The Syria Civil Defence, whose first responders are known as the White Helmets, said emergency operations continued despite the rainstorm ending. Returning to Australia now, where a heatwave that swept in the southeast of the country sent temperatures soaring in the nation's biggest cities and escalated the threat of bushfires. A large blade has been contained in Adelaide, South Australia, after it burned through 2,500 hectares. It is believed to have destroyed several houses, but not caused injuries. A statement from South Australia Police said smoke will reduce visibility on the roads and there is a risk of trees and branches falling. Images taken on Monday show smoke over Adelaide obscuring parts of the city skyline and prompting some residents to wear face masks. After the hot spell began last Friday, the Bureau of Meteorology issued heatwave warnings for South Australia, Victoria, New South Wales, Tasmania and Queensland. On Monday, Victoria's state capital Melbourne recorded temperatures of 41.5 degrees Celsius at 12:40 p.m. Temperatures in Victoria began to cool, but New South Wales and Queensland saw heatwaves continue into Tuesday. Sydney recorded temperatures of above 40 degrees by Monday afternoon. Health officials urged people to stay inside and to avoid physical activity, and for those near New South Wales bushfires to avoid inhaling smoke. The heat lingered until midweek as the hot air mass tracked east off the coast. In some health news, and French drug maker Sanofi has said it will help mass-produce the coronavirus vaccine developed by Pfizer BioNTech amid EU shortages. Sanofi said it has struck a deal to produce 125 million doses of the vaccine by the end of the year. Pfizer BioNTech has cited production problems, as has AstraZeneca, which is also falling behind in its EU deal. The EU has threatened to restrict the exports of vaccines made within the bloc to deal with the shortfall. BioNTech will initially produce the vaccines at Sanofi facilities in Frankfurt, starting in July, according to a Sanofi statement. The EU has ordered 600 million doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine for use across its 27 member states. But the company was not able to supply the 12.5 million vaccines it promised the EU by the end of 2020 due to supply chain issues. Pfizer said last week it was delaying shipments for the next few weeks because of work to increase capacity at its Belgian processing plant. The EU also signed a deal with AstraZeneca in August for 300 million doses, but the company is also falling behind on its supply target because of production problems. It was hoped some 80 million doses would arrive in the 27 nations by March. The European Commission says it has reached agreements with 4 other pharmaceutical companies to purchase in excess of 1.4 billion vaccines once they pass clinical trials. And in sport, Arsenal have signed Real Madrid attacking midfielder Martin Odegaard on loan until the end of season. The 22-year-old Norwegian international has struggled to make an impact in Real manager Zinedine Zidane's squad this season. Real Sociedad, where Odegaard spent last season on loan, and Eredivisie leaders Ajax were also interested. Arsenal boss Mikel Arteta said, "Martin is of course a player we all know very well. Although still young, he has been playing at the top level for a while. Speaking about Arteta, Odegaard said, "He seems like a top manager and I like his ideas, the way he sees football and also the way he is. He gave me a great feeling and that was important for me to come here. He was crucial." Odegaard's arrival at Emirates Stadium comes after the departure of playmaker Mesut Ozil for Fenerbahce. And that's all for CYC News. A reminder that you can watch this news bulletin again throughout the week on YouTube. I am Anastasia Hanna from the CYC studios in Sydney, Australia. See you next time.